Zavala.
My name is Carrie Troughton.
I'm Katrina Bichelotto.
And I'm Sandy Usaris.
And we hope you guys like our presentation today.
Welcome everyone to the Moria Show. Today's show is going to focus on the controversy between grass-fed and corn-fed beef. The global demand for beef is rising. So, where is the world going to get more meat, and how important is it that beef be grass-fed or corn-fed? Let's take a moment and get some input from our audience. How many of you know whether your beef is grass-fed or corn-fed? Please raise your hand. Well, it seems like not too many. Well, let's find out if it's important to know about our beef and how it is raised. Welcome, Farmer Betty. Hello.
Thank you for having me today.
Welcome to the show, Betty. So, how long have you been a farmer?
Well, I've been raising cattle since as long as I can remember. My parents were both proud farmers, and since they retired, my sister Sally and I have taken over the business. But being a business owner really got to Sally's head. So she decided to change her way of feeding by going to the feedlot model.
So, Betty, why did you choose to stay to the old model of grass feeding your cattle?
I decided to stay grass feeding because I feel it is a more sustainable way for us and for the environment. And if you think long term, this is the only method that makes sense for the health of our planet.
Well, you have mentioned that this method is more sustainable for the environment. Can you explain how it is more sustainable?
My way is more sustainable because I don't have to harvest my feed with CO2 emissions, which means that I save a lot of energy and I don't have to overproduce my harvest. My cows make their own fertilizer as they graze through the pastures, which means there's no need for synthetic fertilizers. And there is biodiversity into our fields, so there's flowers, insects, and other animals living in their natural habitats, which means that there's no need for high concentrations of animal waste to pollute the environment.
Wow, well that sounds great. Let's see what your sister has to say. Please welcome Sally.
Good morning.
Hello, Sally.
So let me just move this chair because I don't want to be sitting.
So, Sally, we've been talking with your sister about the grass feeding her cows. I am wondering why you changed to the model of feedlot.
Yes, well, I chose this technique because it's so much more affordable. I can raise a lot more cows in a small amount of time and space. And I feel like with this technique, everyone wins, you know? The people get their juicy, cheap beef, and I get my money.
So, Sally, do you think your way is sustainable for the environment?
Of course I do. It's highly efficient in producing massive quantities of meat at a relatively low cost. I feed corn that is overproduced and incredibly cheap. We are able to get the corn to the feedlot using minimal labor and resources. The grain also increases the growth and the weight gain in the cows. So unlike grass, corn is actually abundantly available year-round. And the fed beef also gives us that juicy marble that people love in their beefs.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I think it is time that we see how the cows think about all this, since they are directly affected by these feed decisions. Let's welcome Lily, the grass-fed cow, and Lulu, the corn-fed cow. Thank you both for joining us today. So, Lulu, let's start with you. How do you feel being raised as a corn-fed cow?
I feel like this isn't fair. I feel like a prisoner in this crowded space. Feedlots that we're raised in are crowded. They literally make us stand in our own waste. It's very disgusting. I can hardly turn around sometimes. I feel very crowded and weak. I'll also be slaughtered much earlier than grass-fed cows due to the copious amount of corn, protein supplements, antibiotics, and growth hormones that they force on me so that I rapidly grow and weight gain. I'll be ready to slaughter in just 14 to 16 weeks.
Wow, that sounds terrible. So, what is all this baggage that you brought with you today?
Well, Marie, I brought some of the antibiotics that I'm taking. The most common antibiotics used in cattle are tetracycline and penicillin. 90% of the times, the antibiotics are given to us for non-therapeutical reasons, just to enhance our growth and weight gain.
Wow, this is quite eye-opening. Thank you, Lulu. So, let's see how it is to be raised as a grass-fed cow. Welcome again, Lily. Lily, how do you feel being raised as a grass-fed cow?
I feel great. I have lots of room to roam around and graze on beautiful grass. That is exactly what my body needs. It keeps my room nice and healthy. I am very strong and healthy because I get plenty of exercise and I live in a healthy environment. I am very happy and healthy.
Wow, that sounds quite different. So, are you being put into any of these conditions that Lulu has mentioned?
Heck no. I'm cared for. I actually feel loved. Since I don't live in crowded conditions like that, I'm not forced to take unnecessary antibiotics or growth hormones. I believe that all cows should live the way I do. We are raised the way cows are meant to live. We eat the food that is healthy for us, and we get plenty of exercise.
This is really a controversy. I really never understood the differences. The public really needs to ask more questions. Well, let's see what the farmers have to say about their products. So, Betty, why should consumers choose your product?
Well, my grass-fed cows are very healthy, and they are very high in vitamin E and omega-3 fatty acids. They are also made up of a special fat called conjugated linoleic acid, which can lower your chances of getting cancer and high blood pressure. They are also made up of a special vitamins called beta-carotene, riboflavin, thiamine, and also my cows are free of antibiotics and growth hormones. Consumers need to ask more questions and learn more about where their meat is coming from and where it's being raised.
Thank you, Betty. And Sally, how about you? Why should customers choose your product?
Yes, I have the support of the government. The feedlot model is what they want to see. It's affordable, it's good, and there's a high demand for it. In contrast, grass-fed beef makes up only about 2 to 3% in the country in this market. So as you can see, consumers are purchasing the product they are demanding for.
Well, this is a lot to think about. I think it's time for a commercial break. Let's turn to our fat screen TV.
Here are some facts you must hear before you eat your next burger. Corn-fed beef is 2 to 3 times higher in saturated fat than grass-fed beef. Corn-fed beef has omega-6 fatty acid, which promotes heart disease and some types of cancer. 80% of all feedlot cows are injected with growth hormones and antibiotics. Grass-fed cows are high in minerals and are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which reduces your risk of heart disease and some cancers. The choice is yours.
Welcome back from the commercial break. It seems living conditions for these cows is quite extreme. Let's welcome our guest, Dr. Humane, to address ways these cows are treated. Hello, Dr. Humane. Welcome. So there seems to be a lot of differences in how these cows are raised. How much space does a cow raised in a feedlot actually have?
Yes, well, thank you for having me. Cows on feedlots have about 12 acres with 7,000 other cows, compared to grass-fed cows who have 13,000 acres.
Are there other issues affecting cows in feedlots?
Yes, since the cows are just thought of as a product, they are violently abused on their way to slaughter. They travel on crowded trucks for long distances trying to survive harsh weather conditions. Sometimes they die of dehydration, and maybe the opposite. They freeze to the sides of the truck if it's too cold. When the trucks arrive at the slaughterhouses, the animals are too sick and too weak to move off the trucks. And hateful, impatient workers sometimes beat and drag these animals to the slaughterhouse. This meat these cows might end up in the burger you might eat. This is another outcome of the feedlot system.
That sounds terrible. So, doctor, do you see a trend to raise cattle in a more humane grass-fed method?
Actually, no, it's the opposite. The trend is rapidly moving towards the feedlot model.
Wow. Well, thank you for joining us today, Dr. Humane. Well, according to research that I have done, the majority of beef worldwide is grass-fed, but the trend is moving to feedlot systems. More and more countries like Argentina, Australia, and Brazil are changing to the method. In places like Argentina, it is a part of their culture that is being lost. Once the #1 exporter of beef, they have now moved to #7. For Australia, they are using the feedlot system to cope with the drought. Well, now let's take a closer look at how these methods are affecting the environment. Since we all know that everything is connected, our choice about which meat we eat and how much meat we eat have a direct impact on the environment. So let's welcome Professor Biodiversity.
Thank you for
Hello.
having me today.
How much meat is being produced and how is this affecting the environment?
Well, the world demands a lot of meat. In 2007, the U.S. produced 48.5 billion pounds of red meat. This demand has an impact on land, water diversity, and many other things. Since the main food these cows are fed is corn, there needs to be a lot of corn grown. That demand has created a monocrop situation which isn't very sustainable, so there is a need for fertilizers, pesticides, genetic modification, and lots of irrigation.
What problems do you see with antibiotic usage?
Well, there are some big problems. Are you aware that 80% of the nation's antibiotic usage is added to animal feed every year? That's 29 million pounds. The runoff from these feedlots spread antibiotic-resistant bacteria into the water and soil. The bacteria that make the headlines most are E. coli and O157H7, and people die from this every single day.
What happens with all the waste at feedlots?
The large amount of acidic waste generated by these feedlots leaches into the ground and becomes a serious pollution issue. The grass-fed cows produce a healthy fertilizer for the soil that gives back to the system.
And what about the land?
Well, millions of acres of rainforest are cut down every year to supply land for animal feed. The land that these feedlots are on are so concentrated in waste and bacteria, it is very toxic. This just isn't sustainable. The world needs to reduce their demand of beef to help the environment.
Well, that's quite an idea. Eat a few less burgers a week and save the world. That's quite an idea. Well, thank you, Professor Diversity.
Thank you.
So, it seems like there are many costs when it comes to what we eat. Let's take a quick commercial break and turn to our fat screen TV to hear some beefonomic facts.
Here's your public service announcement for beefonomics. Let me tell you the true cost of beef. When we are considering the true cost of beef, we must consider every pound. Let me list the true cost of beef. We must consider environmental factors as well. Let me list a few. 1 gallon of oil is produced for every pound of beef. 2,500 gallons of water is produced for every pound of beef. And 10 pounds of grain equals 1 pound of beef. We are destroying rainforests to make more land for cattle. Over 200 million tons of manure must be disposed of yearly, which is the environmental factor. 100 billion cubic tons of methane gas is produced every year by raising beef. It is evident that the environmental costs are very high and maybe worldwide we need to reduce our consumption of beef. With all the factors calculated, the true cost of beef ends up being $815 a pound.
Well, it seems like there are some quick and simple solutions. We get to choose our food, so we all need to choose wisely. We all need to eat less meat and be aware that everything is connected. So the choices we make are connecting to feeding the world sustainably for the 21st century. Now that we have learned the true cost about beef, between the difference between corn-fed and grass-fed, how many of you would choose the grass-fed beef? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question. How did you decide on this topic?
Well, we saw that it was like, it's something, everyone always buys fast fast food. Everyone always tries to get the cheapest beef and meat, that you can get at the grocery store and stuff. And a lot of people don't actually know where their meat, what their meat actually has, the cows, if they're actually raised the right way. A lot of cows are actually, tortured and stuff. The hamburgers at McDonald's, Jack in the Box, and all those fast food, beef, it has the cows are not raised the right way, and I think none of us would like that if we knew actually how they were treated and stuff. And that's why we chose this topic, because I think it's really important for all of us to know where our beef actually comes from.
I know that kids usually aren't the ones out shopping for their groceries, and it's usually the parents that are, but obviously you guys probably shop with them sometimes. So have you been able to influence your parents and your family's decisions about eating meat?
Yeah, I have a lot.
Yeah.
Because, my parents, didn't know anything about meat, and ever since I started researching this topic, it's really changed their ways and their mindsets about where they want to get their beef and where it comes from. So, I think education for everyone is, a good way to know everything. So.
Anyone else?
I actually did some research on this topic as well, and I've been researching this for 2 years, and it made me change my mind to be vegetarian. And now my family, they eat meat once a week maybe, and it's always organic, or we try to get the best meat because I told my parents everything I learned, and it influenced them.
I think they get surprised on how bad they actually treat these cows, and I don't think a lot of people don't actually stop and think, where does my meat come from? How do they treat the cows, the meat that I'm eating? Is it actually healthy for me? All the antibiotics that is in the meat, does it actually go off when I'm eating that piece of meat? I think it's really important. And my mom, she's not everyone's gonna make a contrast that big. I'm not gonna eat meat no more, but slowly, it starts from somewhere.
So if your solution is for people to eat less meat through education, then whose responsibility is it to educate people?
Well, I think it's all of us, we need to do the research, we need to, presentations like this, it doesn't have to be the adults teaching it, it could be us, and I think it gives the message more out there on, because we're teenagers, and we're actually trying to know where our beef comes from. So I think it usually starts from the young ones.
Do you have a cafeteria at your school?
Yeah, we do.
Do you think that you have an opportunity to help educate the people that are making decisions about what food you guys are fed in the cafeteria?
Not really, but
No?
because that's a totally different group. So we've gone to meetings and we've tried to, say where our food, what kind of food we want and stuff, but nothing's really happened. So you can only just take it year by year and day by day. So
Do you
hopefully
feel
it'll
like
change
influencing the greater student population, again, mass individuals can make a big change, and you guys could be the starting point? Do you feel like you could gain some traction by bringing the rest of the students with you?
Well, yeah, I think, the more that people know and, the more change, can happen overnight. So, as more and more people know about it, I'm sure change will happen, so.
Has your research influenced you to also kind of look into where your fish and your chicken and your vegetables and everything you eat?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I think all of us, before this year, we all used to go to Burger King and all of that. We have one right next to our school, and I think a lot of us stopped, because we found out where our chicken, how all the hormones that are injected to it, it's pretty disgusting, and I don't think none of us want to eat that type of stuff, so of course with the chicken and how they're, raised too, I think that's another big